Thank you for joining us for this look at the best original reporting from KPBS News this week. I'm Maya Trabulsi. After the deadliest year yet for migrant border crossing, see what Imperial County is doing to make things safer in one of the most dangerous spots. Part of the housing solution, Father Joe's opens up a brand new development that's already providing stability for hundreds. And challenges for the flower industry, the supply and labor issues that are slowing things down this Valentine's weekend. The days ahead will bring another turning point in the COVID-19 pandemic. San Diego County health leaders say cases continue to trend down from the peak of the Omicron wave. And starting next week, the county will follow state guidance to ease indoor mask restrictions. Supervisors also say they're looking at ways to wind down mask requirements in schools. And this week marked 2 years since COVID arrived here in San Diego. KPBS health reporter Matt Hoffman revisits some of the early moves made by those who had become leaders in our pandemic response.
You like the park?
Yes.
Yeah. Is it better than the hospital?
Yes.
2 years ago, Frank Wusinski and his then 3-year-old daughter Annabelle were among those evacuated from Wuhan, China, and put into quarantine at MCAS Miramar.
It was a good thing that we did that, but on the other hand, there's a feeling of guilt that I left my wife in probably the worst time of her life.
Wusinski's wife had to stay in China, and the 2-week quarantine, which included a hospital visit, was not easy on their daughter Annabelle.
In her mind, it's mommy not wanting to see her. Just kind of explain as simply as you can is, mommy misses you, mommy loves you.
The dad and daughter were flown into San Diego on unmarked planes. Some of more than 200 Americans and their families quarantined inside of base hotel rooms. For San Diegans, it was their first local experience with coronavirus.
Well, I think most people were just confused and trying to understand, what is this all about?
Then County Supervisors Board Chair Greg Cox says he wasn't sure what to expect.
It's one of these things you're kind of figuring, well, is this just kind of a passing problem? I mean, we had problems with swine flu, with H1N1, and those were just kind of Ebola. Those were just kind of blips on the radar screen that, okay, people were kind of following what was going on, but for the most part, it never impacted their lives. And now this was something that looked like it was potentially going to be much bigger, and as it turned out, it certainly was.
If anyone got sick, they were not allowed to stay at MCAS Miramar. The county's chief medical officer, Dr. Eric McDonald, was in charge of figuring out care locally.
We knew it was a big deal because this was something that had not been done in 50 years. I mean, literally, large-scale federal quarantine. What I remember was when we first got the call that maybe San Diego might be a location, I was like, why us? And then I was trying to think of how can we get out of this, okay? But then we quickly figured out, oh no, this is where it's going to be.
McDonald ended up asking UC San Diego Health and Rady Children's Hospital to be ready if anyone felt sick. Back then, test samples had to be sent to the CDC lab in Atlanta, which took a few days for results.
Really, the heavy burden of what to do in terms of management fell on UCSD and Rady Children's to be able to figure out the infection control.
7 patients were ultimately taken to UCSD and Rady's. Of those 7 that developed symptoms, 2 tested positive. They were the 13th and 14th cases of COVID in the U.S.
You assume the worst, that is the most contagious, and you work down from there.
UC San Diego Health's Dr. Francesca Torriani helped coordinate care for the 7 patients.
You could see really the worry of some of being not welcomed and of really being afraid.
Torriani says they knew it was a respiratory virus, but they were unclear how easily it could spread, so the patients were put inside special negative pressure rooms that were designed for contagious Ebola patients.
We were at the maximum containment for all of these patients.
The safety protocols worked. No staff members ended up contracting the virus, and while one patient did have an experimental treatment, everyone left the hospital okay. All of the evacuees ended up leaving the base before March came, and then we started seeing cases among local residents. There were some valuable lessons learned during the federal quarantine, like how to safely transport COVID-positive patients.
So I got our pre-hospital system kind of geared up to be able to handle that, all the way to just the logistics of how to support a lot of people in one place who were on quarantine with food, with housing, with social service support.
Toriani says for some of the patients there was a language barrier, but she was focused on making them feel welcome so far away from home.
Asking them what kind of food they want would help them, giving them hot water and a teapot so that they could find some humanity. That was so touching and so important. Just to make them feel, less afraid.
During the quarantine period, the San Diego community showed their support. Military spouses organized food, toy, and book donations. Some local schools even sent in Valentines Day cards. This early COVID experience helped prepare San Diego officials when just a few weeks later, cruise ship passengers had to be quarantined and then unsheltered residents were isolated at the convention center. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
A big change this week to the migrant camp that has grown in recent years just on the other side of the San Ysidro Border Crossing. The Mexican government carried out a major sweep, tossing out tents and other items belonging to asylum seekers. As many as 2,000 people were living there at one point. Many others choose more dangerous paths to the U.S., and that was evident last year. According to Customs and Border Protection, 2021 was the deadliest year on record for crossings. KPBS border reporter Gustavo Solis shows us one trouble spot and what's being done to make it safer.
Everything John Hunter thought he knew about illegal immigration changed when he went on a nighttime ride-along with Border Patrol agents in 2000. They used night vision goggles to spot a group of migrants on the U.S. side of the border. Hunter still remembers the rush he felt when they moved in on the group.
We saw these guys, we went down and busted them. Turned out there were 6 little ladies sitting there on the ground, and they had their purses out. I'm going, I don't feel like such a stud. Here I am busting someone who looks like my mother or my grandmother or my sister's cook. It's not like a manly thing to do,
Hunter is a staunch Republican, the brother and uncle of former San Diego Congressman Duncan Hunter Sr. and Jr. Until that night, his image of people who crossed the border illegally were bad hombres and macho muchachos, as he calls them. But that's not what he saw. He saw poor people trying to survive, women and children fleeing violence. Soon after, he began leaving water bottles along the border's rugged mountains and treacherous desert. Then he focused his attention on the All-American Canal in Imperial County, where more than 550 migrants have drowned while crossing the border since at least the 1990s. He looked into who was drowning and found the same thing.
These are just ordinary people that drown crossing. These are not the cartels. These are not the guys you read about with the macho muchachos. These are not. They're just ordinary people that can't make a living. They're trying to survive.
The All-American Canal is an 82-mile waterway that runs along the U.S. border as it carries water from the Colorado River to Southern California. It's managed by the Imperial Irrigation District. The canal is notoriously deadly for migrants trying to cross the border illegally. It's 200 feet wide and about 20 foot deep in some areas, and lined with steep concrete. CBP agent John Mendoza explains why the canal is deceptively dangerous.
A lot of the migrants don't know the threats that the water has. What may appear to be calm on the top may not be so on the bottom. There's a lot of strong currents and undertows that can take someone very easily underneath the water.
In 2010, John and his wife Laura led efforts to install 1,000 safety buoys and ladders along the canal. It was an uphill battle. Some irrigation district board members and staff thought the safety measures would make it too easy for people to cross the border illegally. Former irrigation district board member Michael Abadi supported Hunter's proposal, but he faced backlash from his own agency.
There was some arrogance on some of this staff that said, what are you going to do, just build a bridge so they can come across? I said, not asking to build a bridge, but it definitely wasn't meant to be the end of the road for a lot of people.
But then 60 Minutes came to town and did an expose on the canal depths. After that, the irrigation district agreed to install 103 buoys along the canal, one every half mile on the east side and one every mile on the west side. And the buoys actually worked. The number of drownings went down. Border Patrol agents say the buoys actually helped them rescue migrants in the canal.
If we have to apprehend a group or we have to rescue a group of individuals that may be struggling in the water, we can use the buoy lines as a reference.
This rescue video from March 2021 shows how the buoys helped a swimmer that was too tired to go on. Without the buoy line, the current would have dragged the man over a 49-foot drop. The irrigation district has not increased the number of safety buoys along the canal since 2010, and data shows that the drowning deaths are going up, particularly along the western part of the canal, which has fewer buoys. Irrigation district officials declined a KPBS interview request. A spokesperson says the agency has installed 40 warning signs along the canal in recent years. This is in addition to more than 1,300 signs that had already been installed. Still, 47 migrants have drowned in the canal since 2015, 14 of them last year alone. Hunter says it's time to add more buoys.
Right, the data indicates that they're drowning close to Mexicali or close to Winter Haven where there aren't the buoys. And so, no, it's pretty common sense, right? These are common sense things. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to make an estimate that it'll work.
Abadi agrees with Hunter, but he doesn't think the current board will prioritize this issue.
It's not acceptable. I mean, I think we can do better. I wish they'd do better. I mean, if they don't like the buoy system, I say, well, try something else, but try something. They're not trying anything. And that's what's frustrating today.
Gustavo Solis, KPBS News.
A former Assemblywoman who recently left office is endorsing a familiar name to replace her. As Jacob Ayer reports, other candidates say it will be up to voters to decide.
Former Assemblymember Lorena Gonzalez has officially endorsed Barrio Logan's Georgette Gomez as the candidate she would like to see take over her role in charge of California's 80th Assembly District.
I know that I'm never going to have to look at Georgette as an elected official in Sacramento and worry that the powerful corporate interests in Chamber of Commerce are pushing her buttons in a certain direction. I know that she's going to come back home and be accountable and be reliable to the people who live right here.
After 8 years in office, Gonzalez resigned from her District 80 position in early January to return to her roots in the labor movement. Gomez is a former San Diego City Council president and says if elected, she would continue a similar mission to Gonzalez in the role.
I'm feeling very energized, very humble to be able to be launching, be in the campaign trail to be the next state assembly member for the 80th district, to be doing it along with working people, doing it with the former assembly member for this district. It's incredible.
While Gonzalez has officially endorsed Gomez as her candidate of choice, there are still others vying for the position. That includes Republican Lincoln Pickard and the Democratic former San Diego City Councilman David Alvarez.
I think the people in this district don't want to see Sacramento pick their next assembly person. They want to be the one who decides who gets to represent them. And it matters to them that it's someone who's gotten things done and accomplished for them, as I have done in the past. And I will continue to do, which is represent the people of this district and only their interests.
The special election primary for the 80th district will be held on April 5th, with a runoff on June 7th. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
And here are some of the most read stories this week at kpbs.org. The Marines are investigating the son of a former Republican Party chairman who is accused of having ties to a white supremacist group. The story you saw earlier from Gustavo Solis on migrant deaths is also getting a lot of attention. And so is our story on a high rise in Bankers Hill that's setting a new precedent for housing density. And there's a lot more this week when it comes to improving our local housing supply. Hundreds of homes are now available in a new downtown property built by Father Joe's Villages. KPBS reporter John Carroll was there for the grand opening.
This area next to MTS headquarters, in the shadow of one of the most beautiful major league ballparks in the country, is where you find a lot of San Diego's homeless people. But it's now also where you find this, a new 14-story building meant to get folks like these off the streets.
People who have been on the streets for such an extended period of time, and now they look elated because they have a place of their own.
This is the St. Teresa of Calcutta Villa, the latest and the largest effort by Father Joe's Villages to get people into their own homes.
1, 2, 3, all right.
Deacon Jim Vargas cut the ribbon to officially open this shiny new facility, and there, to his right, a 7-year-old girl named Abigail. She's now a resident here with her father, Joseph Fish. They were without a home just weeks ago.
It's been a blessing to me and her to have this opportunity to have something permanent and stable and something secure for my daughter and safe.
Safe, secure, and just beautiful. 14 floors of studio, 1- and 2-bedroom apartments, some set aside for veterans. But this place is about more than apartments. There is this beautiful garden area on the 3rd floor, and 1 floor up, a family courtyard and playground, complete with 2 gas grills and a view. And way up, a commanding view from what's called the Community Terrace, a dog-friendly space on the 13th floor. All of it for people who, until very recently, didn't have anywhere to live.
It has 407 homes. It will either end the homelessness or prevent the homelessness of about 550 individuals. I am over the top excited.
Thanks to the work of a lot of people, the villa came in on time and on budget during COVID. Vargas sees a divine hand at work.
That's not happenstance, okay? You know, I know that God was with us throughout. Not that it wasn't challenging, by the way, extremely challenging, but he provided the support that we needed throughout.
St. Teresa of Calcutta Villa is now open, and not surprisingly, it's almost full. A place where people are finding new hope. A place where people who were very recently without a home have now found a place to call home. John Carroll, KPBS News.
And on this Super Bowl weekend, we have a story about the universal language of sports and how it can be used to shape young lives. Education reporter MG Perez stopped by a school assembly in Barrio Logan with a very special guest.
There is great anticipation as students file in for the first assembly since the COVID shutdown here at the Monarch School. These 4th and 5th graders are ready to hear a message and watch some magic moves from a world-famous Harlem Globetrotter.
A lot of times, bullies bully people because they're looking for some attention. Don't give them the attention that they're seeking.
Julian Zeus McClurkin is a 6'8" forward for the Harlem Globetrotters. He's got signature moves and a signature message he carries to students around the world to stop bullying. He speaks from a lifetime of experience.
Discrimination is a part of bullying. You know, there's different levels to it. That's one way that we were bullied, coming up. Not allowing African Americans to play basketball in white-only leagues.
Kristen Tanner has taught at the Monarch School 17 years. She's seen bullying of her students, who are all homeless or living with home insecurity in Barrio Logan and downtown. Mrs. Tanner puts it this way in her 4th grade class.
And a lot of times someone who's bullying is someone who's hurting themselves. And so it begins with learning to be compassionate and kind and respectful within their community.
The globe-trotting Zeus talks about the ABCs of defeating the bullies with action, bravery, and compassion.
A kid's attention span sometimes can be kind of short, but if we can use that attention and use this basketball to do so, I think it's very pivotal, and we can probably stop some behaviors that we don't want in the future.
10-year-old Gabriel Salas gets the message for any of his classmates being bullied.
What advice would you give him?
To walk away and stuff, and not to, don't let them try to fight you.
And now the moves the Globetrotters are known for.
You can think about instances when you were a kid and you remember these assemblies and they stay with you for the rest of your life. I'm just hoping that I can impact 1 or 2 kids, man, in my lifetime now. I think I'm doing it. Round the back, and then toss it off the glass. Good. You're making it. Is that what you were trying to do?
Mission accomplished. MG Perez, KPBS News.
And this is a huge weekend for bars, restaurants, and especially for florists. Valentine's Day is Monday, and the work to get everything in place happens well before February 14th. Kitty Alvarado went to Carlsbad, where there are new challenges this year for the flower industry.
Lavender and purple. This is the cabbage, also the kale that they call it. All the wax flowers pretty much local right now.
Flower shop owners, event planners, and anyone in San Diego County just looking to buy flowers directly from local farms and wholesalers come here. The International Floral Trade Center in Carlsbad. But as Valentine's Day looms, people in the business like Linda Price see a big problem.
It is a little crazy. I've been doing this for 36 years and I've not seen anything like it.
Price works for Milano & Company, a family farm and wholesaler. They grow flowers and greens on over 500 acres in Oceanside and Carlsbad and have 4 wholesale locations. She says demand is high, especially for their green filler for arrangements, but
the labor issue. We don't have enough people to cut our products. So we usually have thousands of extra bunches and we have been sold out for the last 7 days. We are probably about 12,000 to 14,000 bunches in the hole.
But the worst problem is with flowers that are flown in from other countries, like the beloved rose. Most of them sold in the U.S. come from Ecuador. Rudy, who didn't want his last name to be used, says he's best known for his beautiful wholesale roses. He predicts prices will go up about 30%, as the crisis is making it tough to fill orders.
Even though there's a big supply available at the source, right, there's no way to get it to market. There's a lot of losses because product gets to its destination and it's not in very good condition. It forced me to get to the point where I'm not taking any orders or booking anything. I'm doing it day by day.
Pam Veery works for Allen's Flowers and Plants, one of the largest flower retailers with several locations in San Diego.
It's been a struggle because not only is it affecting us, it's affecting everybody.
She says folks should take time before the Super Bowl to place an order for their Valentine.
We're encouraging people to order early and get deliveries early. Just because of the flower shortage, to make sure that they do get their flowers in case, we don't know.
Price says she feels blessed their company continues to thrive, but the pandemic has cost the floral industry billions of dollars. Still, she remains hopeful.
It's been a very unusual, since 2020. And we've never seen anything like it and hope that it comes back to normal, whatever that means,
Kitty Alvarado, KPBS News.
And finally, a story on how technology is changing how we shop. KPBS SciTech reporter Thomas Fudge takes us to a downtown market that might be a glimpse into the future for your corner store.
On the ground floor of the Vantage Point apartment building in downtown San Diego, there's a small grocery store, but it's missing something. There's no cash register, no cashier, no bank of self-checkout machines, just groceries sitting on shelves. Once you walk through this turnstile at Valley Market downtown, you don't even have to think about how you're going to pay for the food.
We use technology to figure out who took what out of a store. So it's an autonomous store in that the sense that you walk in, you take what you want, and you walk out. And we rely on a suite of sensors, somewhere in the ceiling, somewhere in the shelves, to figure out what you walked out with.
You get through the turnstile to enter Valley Market by flashing your store app over a sensor. Inside the store, there are cameras everywhere, watching what you pick up and what you put down. This computer screen in the back room shows a moving diagram of customers who appear as dots. Here we can see what they're buying and how many items they're carrying.
You walk in and we track you with ceiling cameras, so we have to know who took the lime and who put back the lime. So there's really two things we're tracking. We're tracking the movement of people, and then we're moving a product.
For the customer, Buiba says using the store is kind of like using a self-service gas pump.
Before we let you in the store, we collect your payment credentials, and then after you leave the store, we charge you for what you took from the store.
The other aspect of the store is the delivery service for Vantage Point Apartments. Orders appear on a screen, and store employees with bags of food head for the elevators on their way to one of the building's 679 living units.
So on the board in the back, you can see just in the last 5 minutes, someone wanted some laundry detergent, toilet paper, and dishwashing detergent. We just ran that up to the room in a few minutes. And we do these deliveries all day long.
Jeff Herman with Excel Robotics calls it the world's fastest delivery service.
Because we don't have to use the labor to sit behind a cashier's desk the whole time, that same labor can be reused for the delivery service that we offer.
The commercial strategy of Valley Market is to serve a dense population with a limited number of essential grocery products. Their research shows nearly 90% of residents in Vantage Point Apartments use the market. One of them is Cameron Thomas.
The simplicity of just having it right downstairs for us. Grocery stores are a little bit further away, so for some of just the normal household goods, it's pretty easy to come down and comparable in price to a lot of the grocery stores in the area.
And all you need is your phone. It's okay if you forgot your wallet. Building resident Antoinette, who didn't share her last name, said their inventory may be limited, but she thinks the company made a lot of good choices.
Everything that we normally buy is here. Everything that we buy is here.
Like Dave's bread.
Yeah, everything. Dave's bread.
The type of cheese we like.
Type of cheese, spaghetti. It's all here. It's like they asked us pre-hand. You know, what do you want in valet?
The company says the technology they use at Valet Market is patented. The service is a trend in retail. Amazon runs similar cashless operations with its Amazon Go stores. And the trend has gotten the attention of the United Food and Commercial Workers Union, Local 135 in San Diego. Local president Todd Walters says you don't just need computers working a grocery store, you need people too.
Those folks know that product, they know what it is, they know what's right, and they're making sure that that product is properly rotated. And if there is recalls or any problems with it, they're going to know. You start getting into computers and technology, that's fine. You know, you might save $1. But at the end of the day, there's so many things that a computer is not going to do.
Excel Robotics has plans for opening more stores in San Diego. For now, Vantage Point residents and anyone else who downloads the app will keep using Valet Market. Shopper Alita Perry says the place has even become a bit of a tourist attraction.
It's the first thing I show my parents or any of my friends that come into town.
Thomas Fudge, KPBS News.
And we hope that you enjoyed this look at KPBS News this week. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Thanks for joining us.